I know many of you were recently at our joint legislative conference with the IAM. The IAM and UAW are natural allies in collective bargaining, in politics, and I am proud to address the convention, General Vice President of the International Association of Machinists, William Winpisinger, more commonly known as Wimpy, Brother Wimpy.
Thank you very much, President Woodcock, my fellow trade unionists, one and all. It's certainly a great personal privilege for me to be here today as a result of a very much appreciated invitation from your president to participate briefly in your special convention and extend to you the fraternal greetings of your brother and sister members in the IAM. And certainly that's a highlight of the day for me, and it's unfortunate that my pleasure happens to be another man's poison, as is all too often the case. President Smith had been looking forward for some time to being here to do this today himself, but he is serving as a member of a delegation headed for Japan, and his departure date was advanced till tomorrow morning, and he therefore could not be here. I'm happy to say that the quick check that we did does not indicate that his advanced departure was caused by the fact that he intended to come here. Obviously, our interest in the IAM in your convention is more than just the sentimentality of extending fraternal greetings. We are aware that the work you do here will have far-reaching impact indeed, not only throughout your own organization in terms of the settlements you make with your industries, but with other allied and kindred organizations as well. We know that will also be true for many of those future settlements we in the IAM will be making. And I would be remiss if I didn't comment while I'm here today on what we in the IAM believe to be a very special relationship which has been developing between your organization and ours. There was a time when many of you, especially those older than myself, can well remember when the only action word that would have properly described our relationship would have been competition rather than cooperation. And a vigorous competition it was indeed, oftentimes productive, but oftentimes not. And we competed with each other for many years throughout the entire spectrum of trade union activity. I don't say that to dredge up any old feelings of animosity or wounds long ago, to reopen wounds long ago healed. I say that simply to point up the irony that is evident in the fact that it took us until 1949 to realize that we had a good deal more in common than we had in competition, and that we ought to be doing something about it. And it was at that time, most of you will remember, that a very historic agreement was executed between UAW and IAM, which set the pattern for many future agreements between organizations of mutual cooperation and jurisdiction. And through the years, we built a relationship as a result of that accord, because we found out that we sought essentially the same goals in collective bargaining. We found out that we pursued virtually identical paths in terms of our work with the legislature, both federal and state by state. And above all, we found that we wanted, each of us in our respective organizations, the kind of an America where all of the people who work would share equitably in the wealth created by their labor. Fortunately, we saw the need later on to refurbish and rekindle the spirit of that agreement in a more recent time, and in 1971 updated, modified, and renovated our agreement to forge yet a better relationship than that which we had enjoyed up to that time. And that set the stage for some very effective mutual cooperation endeavors in things like the Productivity Commission and the Pay Board, where the IAM and the UAW provided much of the leadership and energy that created to the limited number of goals that we managed to achieve before justice demanded that we get out of it. And I think the high point of the relationship between our two unions came last fall, late last summer actually, when we found that it was time for us to put our shoulders to the wheel as the only two organizations who could effectively mount a campaign in behalf of the adversary for the presidency in an effort to defeat Richard Nixon. And mount a campaign we did. And it fell on the shoulders of our two organizations simply because so many other trade union leaders who were supposed to be representing the best interests of their membership were copping out. And some copped out through the mere expedient of saying, I am neutral. Some thought that the candidate couldn't win and that neutrality was a better posture. And some even went so far as to support an administration which had spent 4 years pursuing programs of what we've often called Robin Hood in reverse, taking the money from the pockets of our members and diverting them into the coffers of the corporations or the bank accounts of the wealthy. And I think we can be proud, justly proud, both the UAW and the IAM, that we didn't cop out. Proud that we joined together and pledged our faith and our resources in a cooperative effort to defeat the administration of Richard Nixon that was actually bragging about and proud about its record of anti-unionism and pro-business philosophy. We kept faith with our principle, even though we participated in a defeat. And there's no disgrace in that loss. The disgrace, I submit to you, would have been had we abandoned principle. And while we didn't win, we kept our credibility and we maintained our integrity. We decided together that credibility and integrity were very good cornerstones upon which we could build a joint legislative conference which we held 2 weeks ago and which I believe was the most successful in which the IAM has ever participated. The reaction from our membership has been overwhelmingly favorable, and they want to continue to meet with and work with the UAW in ventures of that kind. And at this point, we are agreed that foundations for such mutual cooperation are firm indeed. We represent the same kinds of members. We bargain in many of the same industries. We share many of the same friends. And yes, even some of the same enemies in the Congress and in the state legislatures. As I indicated earlier, we seek the same basic goals, both in bargaining and in legislation. Moreover, and more importantly, we share a tradition of internal democracy, and we both cherish an equally strong tradition of integrity. At this point, no one can say how far our cooperation might lead us, although you and I know that there has been a lot of speculation about what the eventual result may be somewhere down the line. But this I do believe. Any efforts that succeed in bringing us closer together in pursuit of commonly cherished goals can only benefit the members we serve. And that's the true purpose for which our unions were founded, That is the foundation upon which we have built, and that is the goal we must continue to pursue. The IAM salutes you. We take pride in your program, and we wish you Godspeed in its accomplishment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wimpy.